and welcome to LA Currents. I'm Saida Pagan. Our focus today is on homelessness. It is probably the biggest crisis that Los Angeles has had to face thus far in the 21st century. How did it get to this point, and when will it decrease? Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell is here with some answers. He is chairperson of the Homelessness and Poverty Committee of the Los Angeles City Council. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Saida. Good to be here.
Yes, let's begin by talking about how widespread homelessness is in our city.
So homelessness has never been more widespread in Los Angeles than it is right now. We do one major count a year, and it's called the point-in-time count. And it's a county-wide assessment of the numbers of people experiencing homelessness. In the county of Los Angeles, which we all know there are 88 cities in the county, Los Angeles is one of them, there are some 59,000 people experiencing homelessness. But in the city of Los Angeles, city of 4 million, in a county of 10 million, we have a little over 36,000 human beings that are unhoused, according to the 2019 point-in-time count.
So many people out there think that really nothing is done because they see so many people on the street. Yes. Can you give us, I know you touched upon this, but just generally, where are we now with bridge housing and with other types of housing in Los Angeles for the homeless?
Sure. We're heading toward over 20 bridge housing sites. Right now, we have a handful of them open. We have 2 in my district, and 1 is about to double in capacity, which will get us to over 200 beds in the 13th district for bridge housing. We also have, let's talk about my district first, and then I'll widen the lens. We also have 2 safe parking sites with a 3rd coming to Echo Park. We have the very first HHH project that will open within months now in the 13th district. That's an additional 187 units of permanent supportive housing for the homeless. In the committee that I chair, we have now allocated our entire $1.2 billion for permanent supportive housing. That gets us over the 10,000 unit mark. And then we have moved forward an additional 1,001 units through an innovation fund within that money. And that means build faster, cheaper, build differently than we're used to, the traditional way. So what all this means is that in terms of what people see in their neighborhood, in the commercial corridors, in some of our parks, certainly downtown and all across the city, homeless encampments, under bridges, etc. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, we have over 36,000 people who are homeless. Once these units begin coming online, and it's happening now, we're putting people by the hundreds now into bridge housing. That's the temporary category. And then we're going to be putting thousands of people into this permanent supportive housing within months, within years. In a few short years, we'll have 2,000 to 3,000 units. And when we start getting to where we're opening 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, and up to the 10,000 units that are in the pipeline, there should be a visible decrease to Angelenos as they navigate through the city. I talked about 10,000 units, and I talked about 36,000 homeless people in the city of Los Angeles. We need more. We need more housing. It's numbers. It's a humanitarian crisis, but it's numbers. So that's why I am lobbying Sacramento to meet us halfway with providing a match. I want another $1.2 billion, and I want it to come from the state. And the reason I feel confident in making that request and articulating that justification is that the city of Los Angeles is the only city in the entire state that has created a fund to house people who are homeless. The county of Los Angeles has half of the homeless population in the state of California. The state of California has half of the homeless population in the United States. If the city and city voters thank you for approving HHH, that gives me the justification to make our local delegation, the county assembly members and state senators, to move a bill forward that the governor will sign, and I'm meeting with the governor's office too, 3 meetings so far, that will effectuate a match, a merit-based approach to the state funding that I hope they will allocate next year. I don't want a blank check. I don't expect a blank check. But what I'd like to see is as we open these units of permanent supportive housing and start housing people, I want the state to match us so that we can continue building up to 20,000 units. When we can build 20,000 units, we're getting close to housing 36,000 people. Whether you hate the idea, love the idea, whether people judge it good, bad, or ugly, if we want to house people who are experiencing homelessness, we have to get them under a roof and we have to get them well. And what does getting well mean? That means that a third of people who are experiencing mental health issues can have services where they live. It means people, and it's a high number, it's in the thousands and thousands of people who are facing addiction issues and alcoholism. It's real out in the streets. I'm not going to paper over anything. We can house them and get them treatment where they live. And I think that the vote of HHH in 2016 gave me a job, and I take that job very seriously. I ask for people to be patient. The production is happening now. We will reach that 10,000 units, and within probably 5 or 6 years, not 10.
Now, I understand that you recently convened a summit on poverty and homelessness, etc. Tell us a little bit more about that and what you're hearing from those who came to listen in.
I worked with our own Housing Community Investment Department to host the first ever Summit on Poverty that was really brought forward by a city council member. And so I convened the meeting. It was a day-long summit, and we brought together for the very first time nonprofits and agencies that help and advocate for people who are experiencing homelessness and poverty, along with business leaders, job creators, job providers, our unions, our trades, our chambers of commerce. And those two groups don't traditionally sit at the table together. But it's time to put aside all barriers, imagined or real or otherwise, because the people I talk to want to solve this crisis. And we need to bring everyone together and take a look at the fundamental causes of poverty in the neighborhoods where we already know it's experienced and has been for decades. So I don't want to run away or dodge or avoid the issue. I want to face it head on. And it's not going to be easy, but the attendees, it was fascinating. I've heard nothing but positive feedback. We want to do more of this. And it isn't about just sitting around tables all day, having conversations about the causes and circumstances of poverty. It's about generating a report from the consultant that we brought aboard, so that we can synthesize real ideas that I can turn into policy, run through the council, and have signed by the mayor, so we can bring investment and attention to the neighborhoods that have been historically marginalized and completely overlooked in good times and in bad. Let's bring the resources right to the door. Now, in relation to poverty, you have to be really careful. We're human beings. No matter if you're living in poverty or if you're a multimillionaire, we all have pride. Humans have dignity. They want dignity. You can't just hit someone over the head like, I'm doing all this for you, aren't you lucky? It has to be a very sensitive, thoughtful approach. What I know is that people want opportunity.
What can we do as neighbors, as community members? How can we get involved to solve this problem?
Go take a look at a number of projects where people who are formerly homeless are now living in beautiful, well-managed buildings like Link Housing over at Lucas and Beverly in the 13th District. Go take a look at that facility. You would think it's market rate, it has views, it's beautiful, and the families that live there were formerly homeless. Support these types of projects in your neighborhood.
Well, thank you so much for your time, for your information, and your hard work.
I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of LA Currents. I'm Saida Pagan.